There's something thrilling about seeing a title change live and in person. If you were in Indianapolis's Market Square Arena on February the 5th, 1988, you were a first-hand witness to Andre the Giant's controversial victory over WWE champion Hulk Hogan, and you've been sure to share that anecdote with everyone you've met over the next 30 years, and you have a right to. You saw history with your very own eyes. Millions of wrestling fans through the decades have seen championship switches live and in person, but funny thing, not all of those switches were recognized in the promotion's official media. Once in a great while, there is a title change that escapes mention and is swept under the rug for one reason or another. What if we were to tell you that the fabulous Moolah did not have a 28-year reign as women's champion, or that Ric Flair likely has more than a mere 16 world title reigns? These are factual statements. The following list will look at these fallacies, as well as other instances that fall into the category. I'm Adam Pacitti from Cultaholic.com, and these are 10 Phantom Wrestling title changes. Join us! Number 10. The fabulous Moolah's many opponents. Moolah is not only the least favourite women's wrestler of the Mars Corporation, but her biggest kayfabe accomplishment is just patently untrue. It's been bandied about by WWE law that Moolah reigned as women's champion for 28 uninterrupted years, until Wendy Richter felled her on the MTV special The Brawl to End It All in 1984. Richter did indeed defeat Moolah for the belt, but she's far from the only woman that ever did. Moolah's reign, by WWE record, lasted from the belt's inception in September 1956 through to Richter's monumental victory in July 1984. In truth, Moolah was actually in her 5th reign by the time the match with Richter rolled around. Moolah dropped the belt to 4 different women in between those bookends: Tibet Boucher in 1966, Yukiko Tomo in 1968, Sue Green in 1975, and Evelyn Stevens in 1978. In each instance, the domineering Moolah would regain the belt within days or weeks of losing it, so her cumulative time with the belt was still impressive. Nonetheless, those switches have never been acknowledged by WWE, and the idea that Richter ended a 28-year reign sounds more impressive to the MTV audience tuning in to see megastar Cyndi Lauper manage Richter to the gold. Number 9. Ray Stevens, WWE Champion. The crippler Ray Stevens left an immense legacy in the world of professional wrestling, particularly as a wild man villain whose frenetic bump-taking was far ahead of its time. Stevens' career between the ropes spanned more than 4 decades and was marked with many championship reigns, particularly in tag teams with partners like Nick Bockwinkel in the AWA and Pat Patterson in San Francisco's Big Time Wrestling. It was in the Golden Gate City that Stevens had his most notable brush with championship gold. On July 15th, 1967, before more than 11,000 fans at San Francisco's Cow Palace, Stevens apparently ended the then 4-year WWE Championship reign of Bruno Sammartino in a 2 out of 3 falls match. Stevens took the first fall via pin, while Bruno evened the score via submission. WWE promoters did not recognize the title change, allowing for Sammartino to continue otherwise unabated to his legendary 8-year run with the belt. Stevens failed to win the belt in subsequent return matches with Sammartino, but for a brief time he was recognized as the champion in the San Francisco area. Number 8. Pat Patterson, Intercontinental Champion. Patterson's most commonly referenced claim to fame in wrestling is that he was the first ever WWE Intercontinental Champion, having won the prestigious belt in September of 1979. The fact that Patterson was the belt's first holder has never been in dispute, but the fabricated means in which he procured it is one of wrestling's most cherished open secrets, one that everyone now abides by with a knowing wink. First, Patterson defeated Ted DiBiase in June 1979 to win the long-forgotten WWE North American Championship. He then unified that belt with the South American Heavyweight Championship that he won by defeating Johnny Rodz in a tournament final in Rio de Janeiro, which, together with the North American belt, created the Intercontinental title. As most have figured out by now, the South American belt never existed, and the tournament wasn't real. It was all a kayfabe excuse to create the Intercontinental title. In later years, WWE would begin openly acknowledging the tournament as fictitious, not that it diminishes Patterson's incredible legacy anyway. Number 7. Antonio Inoki, WWE Champion. Like Sammartino, Bob Backlund is credited with having a WWE Championship reign that lasted for an enormous amount of time, nearly 6 uninterrupted years from February 1978 to December 1983. At least, that's the story that WWE is inclined to tell. In actuality, Backlund lost the belt almost 2 years into the purported run, and the new champion was seen in physical possession of the belt for a week afterward. Japanese wrestling legend Antonio Inoki defeated Backlund in a match in Tokushima, Japan on November 30th, 1979. Over the coming days of that specific touring loop, Inoki was recognized as WWE Champion up until losing to Backlund in a rematch on December 6th in Tokyo due to outside interference from Tiger Jeet Singh. Due to the interference, the result was thrown out and the match was ruled a no contest. However, Inoki refused the belt in the light of the new decision. On December 17th, Backlund defeated Bobby Duncombe in a Texas death match at Madison Square Garden to both retain and regain the belt. The New York crowd was not told of the events in Japan, and commentator Vince McMahon referred to Backlund as defending champion. However, Backlund did not enter with the belt and only received it back upon his victory. Number 6. Jack VENENO, NWA champion. You've most certainly heard of the Nature Boy Ric Flair, purported 16-time heavyweight champion of the world. Chances are you might not have ever heard of Jack VENENO, who is able to make a rather unique claim. VENENO was a veteran wrestler from the Dominican Republic who, on August 29, 1982, defeated NWA champion Flair before thousands of his countrymen, with the match caught on video for posterity. So, what happened? Well, Flair was originally supposed to win the match after interference from fellow nefarious heel Roddy Piper, but the crowd was at such a wild fever pitch that Flair feared that a riot would take place if national hero VENENO were to be screwed over in his shot at the gold. Mid-match, Flair called an audible that would allow VENENO to instead beat him for the championship, allowing for Flair and Piper to safely escape the wrath of any outraged fans. The belt was covertly returned to Flair, who took it back to the United States with him. The NWA never recognized the switch, and the kayfabe excuse otherwise offered was that VENENO refused to defend the belt outside of the Dominican Republic. So, he voluntarily gave the belt back. Flair also resorted to similar crowd-coddling tactics in matches with Carlos Colon and Victor Jovica in Puerto Rico and Trinidad, respectively. Number 5. The Glamour Girls, WWE Women's Tag Team Champions. For those of you who desire to see WWE's expanded women's division come equipped with its own set of tag team belts, you should know that the company actually did have such belts a couple of generations ago. The titles were established in 1983, with Velvet McIntyre and Princess Victoria as the maiden champions. When Victoria was forced to retire due to a neck injury in September 1984, she was replaced in the championship duo by Desiree Peterson, with whom McIntyre would hold the gold with until August 1985. It was at that point that Judy Martin and Leilani Kai, the Glamour Girls, were said to have won the belts in Cairo, Egypt. In truth, the match never actually took place, as Peterson left the company around the time. Rather than replace another one of McIntyre's partners, WWE decided to award the belts to Kai and Martin, whilst making up the Phantom Switch as a kayfabe reason. In case you haven't noticed, seemingly random title switches in foreign countries were one of WWE's favourite ways to move belts around at will. Number 4. The fabulous Rougeau brothers, WWE Tag Team Champions. Jacques and Raymond Rougeau stood out in the sea of monsters that was the heavyweight-dominated WWE of the 80s. Their realistic physiques, boyish good looks, and hyper-nimble agility made the brothers a formidable tag team. Although Jacques would later reign 3 times a tag team champion with Quebecer Pierre, the Rougeaus never had an official tag team title reign together in WWE. That is, unless you count that one night in August 1987 that the duo defeated the Hart Foundation for the gold. The match was a main event of a house show in the Rougeaus' native Montreal, and Jacques pinned Bret after striking the Hitman with Jimmy Hart's megaphone. Thankfully, this was the only time that Bret would get screwed over in Montreal. The title switch was filmed by local news programs in the area, as WWE was hoping to bolster interest on the account of Rougeau's regional popularity. However, the switch was never acknowledged by WWE, and the Harts were defending the belts on a house show the following night. The title change were for Montreal's eyes only, a publicity stunt of sorts. Number 3. Ultimate Warrior, Intercontinental Champion. Yes, Warrior did in fact win the IC title in 1988, ending the seemingly unendable reign of the Honky Tonk Man at SummerSlam that year. However, Warrior actually won the belt from the Honk at a Superstars TV tapings in Providence, Rhode Island, 6 nights before SummerSlam. So what gives? Why was the switch done there? In those days, WWE taped their syndicated shows many weeks in advance. Warrior needed to be seen with the belt at the Providence taping, as those episodes of Superstars and Challenge would be airing in September post-SummerSlam. So WWE came up with an ingenious solution. They had Warrior beat Honky in an untelevised match early in the marathon taping session, so that in his appearances throughout the night, he would have the belt that he just won. At the end of the night, President Jack Tunney announced that the belt was being returned to Honky on a technicality, so that Honky would have the belt come SummerSlam. The next night, when WWE taped Challenge episodes in Hartford, Connecticut, they did a similar deal, except this time, Warrior beat Honky via DQ, but took the belt anyway, so that he would physically have it for the rest of the tapings before Tunney ordered the belt back to Honky again. Convoluted? Yes. Clever? Very. Number 2, The Rockers, WWE World Tag Team Champions. You may have heard of this one. Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels' respective autobiographies reference the match in question, and the match was shown in full without commentary on a Michaels DVD release. Shawn and Marty won the belt from the Hart Foundation at a Saturday night's main event taping in October 1990, designed to air about 3 weeks later. It never aired, for a couple of reasons. The switch was being done as Vince McMahon wanted to phase Jim Neidhart into a commentary role while pushing Bret as a singles star. The match itself was a 2 out of 3 falls affair, notable for one of the ropes breaking in the middle of the second fall, thus throwing the entire match into disarray. McMahon felt he couldn't air the bout in its compromised state, but that was a moot point anyhow, because NBC made the decision to trim that Saturday night's main event broadcast from 90 minutes into a special Friday night 60-minute edition. So McMahon nixed the match altogether. He also made the decision to keep the belts on the Harts for another 5 months, after which Neidhart did go into the commentary booth and Bret got his singles run to the top. As a footnote, the Rockers actually did defend the belts on a few house shows in the ensuing days against Power and Glory. Number 1, PSICOSIS, WCW Cruiserweight Champion. PSICOSIS actually reigned as Cruiserweight Champion for a week earlier in 1999, winning a 4-way match over Rey Mysterio Jr., Juventud Guerrera, and Blitzkrieg. Almost 6 months later, he reigned with the belt once more, this time only for a matter of hours. The previous champion was Lenny Lane, a Chris Jericho lookalike who migrated into a duo with Lodi known as the West Hollywood Blondes. In the gimmick, Lenny and Lodi pushed every stereotypical homosexual button possible in order to rile crowds up against them, beating Billy and Chuck by more than 2 years, by the way. During that run, Lane won the Cruiserweight belt, but was forced to drop it after Turner Broadcasting objected to the gimmick's racy overtones. The belt was awarded to PSICOSIS over the first weekend of October, with the claim that he defeated Lane on a house show. In fact, in a clear and obvious gag, WCW's official title histories noted that PSICOSIS had defeated Lane in Rio de Janeiro, where locals say that phantom title switches still take place to this day. So that's our list. Let us know what you think in the comments below, and you can follow me on Twitter here. If you enjoy what we do here at Cultaholic, you can pledge to our Patreon. That's patreon.com/Cultaholic. And most importantly, don't forget to hit subscribe and join us.